the perfect natural landing field, as smooth as a billiard table, without anything being done to it. So you can imagine, Ken, you're a flyer, so, but talking about the lake bed made an ideal strip for testing aircraft. And the Immigrant Valley Mountain Ranges, as the NTS perimeter, protected the site from visitors, okay, about 100 miles north of Las Vegas. So that's the way the truck drivers would remember it, because we'd get to go out there, and there's a hazardous waste area that got to be well known among truck drivers, and if you had to drive 100 miles north, you knew where you were headed. So, but we never mentioned it. There was a mailbox out there, but the lake bed was ideal, okay, for landing in aircraft. And so apparently it's got started back in the time of the Atomic Energy Commission, and the original name, it's unclear as to how it really got started, but some people have come to believe that it was due to the Atomic Energy Commission, known as the AEC, had a numbered grid, but it's not part of the system, but adjacent to Area 51. So another explanation for the 51 number reversed it, because it was unlikely that the AC would use the number. So according to the Central Intelligence Agency, the correct name for the facility, well, there's two. They use Homey Airport, KXTA, in Groom Lake, though the name Area 51 was used in a CIA document from the Vietnam War. So we know it's been around at least that long, probably 55, but in Groom Lake. So there you go, folks, because people from the UK were asking us if it was real. And we got a lot of people we represent, people contacting me and the UFO Association. We got a lot of big names in the business, especially in the radio hosting business. But I guess still the biggest name known is probably Art Bell, that started back in the day with Coast to Coast, and he's passed on now. But after Art Bell, there's George Noory, George Knapp, making it famous with Bob Lazar. And actually this story, Matty Roberts had heard the story with George Knapp, Bob Lazar on, let me see if I can pull this up. The story was, he had heard the Bob Lazar story. If any of you guys remember back in the day when Bob Lazar was really, really famous, and somewhere around 89, I don't have that story pulled up, but let's see here. Robert, he was using the name as Val, V-A-L, which was like Val Thor, E.T., helping out mankind, but Roberts, Matty Roberts is the guy we're talking about. He doubted he'd have an actual army gathered to run the Area 51 in September, but he thought, wow, why, with some pretty good people, they could find out how to get this to be a safer event, promoting the area to help out people in the business, so to speak. Once a year at least, there are people that are getting involved with people, and Robert said he came up with the idea for a meme page after podcaster Joe Rogan interviewed Area 51 whistleblower Bob Lazar and a filmmaker named Jeremy Corbell. And Lazar claimed that he had worked on alien spacecraft there, that he was employed Area 51's underground facilities. So before coming to KLAS, Roberts communicated with NPR via Facebook Messenger under a pseudonym Val. So he said, in quotes, I just thought it would be a funny idea for the meme page. But anyway, so that's what's happened. He thought it would be pretty cool after him seeing Bob Lazar on a podcast with Joe Rogan. And it's really, the Air Force has stepped in saying that wouldn't be a very good idea for its part, but they did talk to the Washington Post about Area 51, about open training range. It's an open training range now for the U.S. Air Force, and they discourage anyone from trying to come into the area while they're training American Armed Forces. So I understand there's some of the hotels are filling up for September 20th. So it may be like a 9/11 date. It's going to wind up being a 9/20 date now in the 2019 year, and people are already saying, where were you on 9/20? And they're going to say, I was right there, man, at Area 51. So I don't know what's going to happen, if anything, but there's the pros and cons, but it's actually been on news it's like a world phenomenon now. So it's getting to be a big deal here. It's been running a couple of weeks since June 27th. It's now July 18th. And it caught up to our group as UFOassociation.org and our ACO Association for Health and Wellness. And we have a lot of group of people that have groups in free social media online. And we deal with as people that just post stuff. Now, Ken, I saw you on Facebook, and we were talking about, we can come back to Area 51, folks, because now you sort of know the story. Area 51 is real. But to be honest with you, I did talk to Captain Dr. Rick Allen Miller, ALANMILLER, out of Washington. And he has been to Area 51 where he saw krill, and he said that was like, Bob Lazar talked about S4 division, and he said he was at S8. That's where krill was, one of the aliens at that time. But since then, all those things have been moved, and a lot of people believe it's gone to Dugway area in Utah. But I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we may or may not know much about Dugway in Utah, but that was what was told. They moved after such a big deal at Area 51. It's got to be more of a tourist attraction on the extraterrestrial highway in Rachel, Nevada, Area 51 in Nevada. But Ken, do you have any more information from pilots or anybody about Dugway, or do you keep up with any pilots or anything?
Well, no, I don't keep up with the pilots because I guess I've officially been retired from. Hey, I'm only 77. I figure I'm going to go to at least 180, so I've got a lot of work left to be involved in this. But no, I have flown in and close enough to see Area 51. And as a matter of fact, I was in inclement weather, and I wound up coming out on top whenever I started lowering down so I could break out below the weather formation that we had there, and I broke out basically right in the middle of that area, and then I had some escorts, and I just kept flying right on. This was back in, good grief, 1966. Would you believe that? Just a couple of years ago. Anyway, so I'm really kind of anxious to see what happens. You know, you can push the government only so far before it has to respond, and sometimes the response can be a very powerful negative response. Now, I personally wouldn't want it, but if you've got 1 million people, then that says an awful lot. And I think we've got some experience coming up. There's a whole lot of other things going on right now with direct contact. People I've been talking with have been pushing for full disclosure, and I feel like that things that TJ and Ahmed and myself, we've been involved in helping get full disclosure to be taking place now. So you're living in the time of change and reality, and I think we could all be being excited about living at this time. So I'm hanging in there, and I'm gonna sit back and watch. Okay.
Well, Dugway Proving Ground has been, like some people call it Area 52 just for promotional purposes, but that's over in Utah, and I know that when I first started this back in 2012, Dugway, Utah was just starting to release public records shedding light on that state, and a lot of outreach, the James Bond super spy type stuff, and you can look up Dugway in Utah as well. But there are various military bases involved with human exposure, biological, chemical agents, and a lot of that is the reason they want people to stay away, to be quite honest. And, it was, remember, we did some atomic bomb dropping, and we should never forget that. And where do we harbor our waste? So those are big things that people know to steer clear of, is bad areas, and we would, of course, drop them in the desert. So if any of y'all know America history, you may want to look at the boundary warnings for people. I'm going to read you one here. It says, warning, U.S. Army boundary, all persons are subject to all regulations. Persons and vehicles are subject to search upon entry into and exit. This is from Dugway Proving Ground, and while within the boundaries of the military reservation, based upon probable cause or military necessity. So probable cause. But, things change over the years, but I don't know about the Atomic Energy Commission and the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force. So the U.S. Army has a Dugway Proving Ground, and the U.S. Air Force has, I guess, Area 51, because they found the U-2 to be of importance. And I do know that there used to be these, what did they call them? They would use it for air when you look down over. They would put these big, camouflage nets over some they couldn't get in the hangars, to separate when the Russian spy satellite would come across. It was one of the few things I remember or know about that on the salt flat over in Area 51. Now, folks, because we are social media, we have social media groups and Facebook, plenty of them. We have UFO Secret Space, UFO organization. We do work with a lot of people all over the world and tell stories, and have people that watch. They're sky watchers, and they watch with infrared binoculars, and they do their best to keep up with what's happening at NASA. And there's plenty of information out there on Area 51. You could start with Wikipedia.org and look at some of the letters that are posted. But the key here for us is to make sure that we agree with the United States government and abide by all laws. Now, civil aviation and civil groups that are for peaceful organizations, and that's definitely what we are. We're more of a trade association of independent contractors, and we're authors. And so we've come together as authors to talk about what we're most interested in as space advocates and UFO enthusiasts. And there's been something in the last few days I've gotten from Daryl Sims. He's a big speaker out there, and he sent me some stuff that he thinks we should sort of stay away from these UFOs and anything to do with people. And so there's pros and cons, and we're going to get into a little bit of that peer shifting topics tonight with AMAD, which is Thomas R. Becker and Ken R. Johnston tonight, because there's pros and cons in everything, and our association is more about independent authors, artists, graphic artists, engineers, people that are interested in seeing us go into space, because we are space advocates. And we also believe in disclosure and those things that we may have known all these years, that we've never stopped being visited. And UFOs are real, and alien civilizations exist. That's sort of our cry. But now, some of you guys are working with event specialists. Now, in a good way, for tourism reasons, in September 20th, that is a day where, like I said, they're already filling up the hotels. There's still bed and breakfast left. But you can get tickets on out there. You just need to make sure what your tickets are for, and what are you visiting there. And there's the little Alien, and there's a little restaurant there. But if you're just going out to Rachel, Nevada, you need to find out who's meeting where on the extraterrestrial highway, because Area 51 is located in the southern portion of the Nevada, 83 miles northwest of Las Vegas, and you're going to get lost out there. It's a big, huge desert. So unless you're with a tourism group or groups in Las Vegas taking you out there, you may not want to just go perusing around Groom Lake. It's totally unadvisable. Not to mention it's a desert, a Salt Lake Flat. So it's not like you're going to drive out and there's a big Las Vegas city with all the casinos, okay? You're talking about 100 miles northwest. Is it northwest? Or anyway, north in the western United States, but north of anywhere nice with casinos and all the tourism and stuff. So there's not going to be anything out there for you to see, to be honest. We have a gate and a mailbox, but you won't be seeing the gate unless you're truck driver going to the other end. But there's just not anything out there to see. Matt, what do we do to make people understand that now if they want to do events, we have event managers, and there's some putting it together out there for groups. So there's various bands starting to want to have like what do they call that out there where they have the Burning Man? I didn't go to that, but it's like the thing that you're an old hippie.